Welcome, everyone. My name is Adrian Bordone. I'm with GuideStar. We're thrilled to have Lindsay Struck with Charity Navigator and a colleague of mine, Madeline Kardos, on today's webinar. We appreciate the time you're taking out of your busy day and hope the information we share with you today is valuable both to you and your teams and serves as a catalyst for an action item that hopefully will benefit you as we go into giving season. As I get started today, I'm going to highlight a few things that we all should be aware of as far as the logistics of today's webinar. Because of the number of registrants and attendees, we are not able to take questions, sort of audio questions. We need to ask folks any questions that you have, please drop into the questions box, which sits on the navigation pane on the right-hand side of your window. That question pane can be activated. In other words, you can bring it out and make it a little larger by clicking on the small box with the arrow in it on the right side. That will enable that pane and allow you to submit a question. We have a number of folks who will be monitoring the question pane throughout the webinar. That includes me and several of my colleagues. If you're having technical issues, we also have a chat function that we're monitoring. We'd ask that you try to keep your questions related to the content of today's webinar and chat related to any technical issues you may be having. I will say that today's webinar is being recorded. We will send around a copy of the recording to all registrants. Regrettably, because of the time sensitivity of this of the message that we needed to share, today's web event does fall on Rosh Hashanah, which was something that will likely contribute to a slightly lower attendance rate than the number of registrants. We have over 400 folks who've registered for today's webinar. We will make sure that everyone who registered receives a copy, and apologies in advance to those who are not able to attend for obvious scheduling conflicts. So with that, we'll get started on today's web event. I mentioned at the sort of commencement of the introduction that we have three folks on today's webinar, Lindsay from Charity Navigator, me there in the center from GuideStar, and my colleague Madeline. Each of us will be available for Q&A. We also will make sure that you have our contact information if there's follow-up questions at the conclusion of today's web event. As many of you know, the catalyst for today's webinar is an exciting collaborative partnership between GuideStar and Charity Navigator. I can tell you that I'm out and about quite a bit in the community, and the most frequent question I get when presenting to a group of nonprofit organizations or funders is, tell us about how you work with Charity Navigator. And frankly, historically, our work with GuideStar's work with Charity Navigator has been limited to some strategic messaging around overhead myth and some collaborative projects that we've worked with that have frankly not been very deep and not been very substantial. We are officially changing that, and today's web event and the message that many of you probably got that prompted you to sign up for today's webinar is really what we're thrilled to share. So essentially, moving forward between now and Lindsay will provide us with some specifics, but we are going to work to ensure that donors who are using Charity Navigator to understand more about the organizations they're seeking to align themselves with and support are able to access key information from both GuideStar and Charity Navigator through the Charity Navigator website. So this is an important acknowledgement of the importance of intelligence in informing giving decisions. We know that folks are often bouncing back and forth between Charity Navigator and GuideStar. We want to work in this first step to give folks an opportunity to get some of the key information they're looking for in one place, and that one place between now and giving season is going to be Charity Navigator. So what is it that we want to make sure you get today? We want to make sure that you have the opportunity to ensure that your organization is highlighted by this through this collaborative. So we're committing to make sure that any organization who has a gold or platinum seal of transparency on GuideStar.org, and we will go through this completely on today's webinar for anyone for whom that may be, that language may not be familiar. We're going to share that information with Charity Navigator so that they can strengthen the intelligence they're offering to donors who are using their resource. So what we're proposing today, and we're offering an invitation to any on today's call, is that if you haven't already claimed your profile on GuideStar, this is free, and you're going to learn how to do it today on our webinar. We would encourage you to claim that profile and then update it before October 5th. So essentially, about 2 weeks to get your profile from where it may be today to where you need it to be if you want to capitalize on this initial first step of partnership between Charity Navigator and GuideStar. Lindsay, I'm going to turn it over to you for a moment and let you talk us through some of the details that are driving Charity Navigator's work in this collaborative.
Thanks, Adrian. Welcome, everyone. I'm Lindsay, the Director of Program Development at Charity Navigator. And I want to start just to echo Adrian's excitement for this initiative. It really is something that we're just thrilled to do with GuideStar. So we're really happy to have all of you listening to learn more about how to participate and figure out together how you can incorporate impact-related data on your Charity Navigator rating page in time for Giving Tuesday. So we are a resource that is trusted by millions of donors every year, and we are here to help make it easier for you to articulate and share your impact on our site, and for donors to better understand what that means for the causes and the nonprofits they care about. We recognize as a nonprofit ourselves that this time of year is critically important for nonprofits. After all, more charitable donations are made at the end of the year than any other time. It also means that there are more donors visiting our site than any other time of the year, and so we're partnering with GuideStar and others in order to make your rating page more informative for the donors who are visiting our site to learn more. In the next few minutes, I'm going to share with you our perspective and approach to the partnership with GuideStar, what it means for you as a rated nonprofit, and review the timeline so you know what to expect. This new collaboration makes it easy for, if you want to skip back to the slide right before this. There we go. With this new collaboration, it makes it easier for nonprofits to share their impact-related information with the largest possible donor audience. In other words, Charity Navigator is in a position to amplify the reporting you're already doing with GuideStar, and we'll measure donor demand and feedback we receive throughout this pilot. We view this as a signal to the larger philanthropic community that the importance of sharing impact-related data is the next phase of accountability and transparency for public charities. Charity Navigator is aiming in this process to increase the volume of nonprofit participants as well as the quality of information provided in the GuideStar Platinum and Gold seals by measuring and encouraging donor engagement around this. We believe that this is an opportunity for us to advance the discussion of impact measurement among nonprofit organizations while also minimizing the burden on parties involved. That includes us, GuideStar, and you folks joining us. Charity Navigator will be part of a movement to help nonprofits become more impactful and to clearly share that information with their donors and beneficiaries. And this perspective really aligns with 3 of our strategic goals this coming year: to equip, expand, and deepen engagement in the sector. So through our work, we intend to equip the entire philanthropic ecosystem with tools, information, ratings that they need to impact their decisions and make intelligent giving decisions, to expand the number of people and organizations who understand and commit to the idea of informed, intentional philanthropy, and thereby deepen the overall community's commitment to giving. So with that introduction, I'd like to talk just a little bit about the value that is gained from the participation of charities. So this collaboration is an opportunity to show donors the difference you're making. It's intended to help you express the value of your work and help donors assess the impact of their donations. In order to participate, Charity Navigator rated charities should update their GuideStar nonprofit profiles to either gold or platinum seals of transparency, because only rated charities with these two seals will have their results information published on their Charity Navigator page for donors to review. As Adrian mentioned, he and Madeline will explain the process by which you claim a profile and update your seal of transparency later on in the webinar. I will say, please rest assured that results information that we're incorporating on your Charity Navigator evaluation page this Giving Tuesday will not in any way impact your rating. So, rest assured in that. So we've touched on the importance of the partnership, Charity Navigator's perspective on that, and the value we're finding in it, the value for nonprofits, what data is going to be published. And so what I want to do now is look at the dates that are important for you to mark down in your calendar. Charity Navigator pages will be updated on Giving Tuesday, which this year is November 28th. What this means for those wishing to participate is the deadline for updating your nonprofit profile to gold or platinum status is October 5th. It's 2 weeks from today. Mark it down in your calendars. We can't guarantee that submissions that are made after that date will be included on Giving Tuesday, but we're looking for different ways to continue the regular update process to this information over time. So mark those dates down. October 5th is the last day for you to claim and update your profile page with GuideStar, and November 28th, Giving Tuesday this year, is the date that your Charity Navigator rating page will reflect that information. So with that, Adrian, I'm going to hand things back over to you to walk through what participants must do in order for their organization to be included in this Giving Tuesday Impact Initiative.
Thanks, Lindsay. Great intro and overview. I appreciate that. We'll take a few moments here, folks. I'll provide some of you who may not be familiar with GuideStar and how you can claim and update your profile with an overview of why this is beneficial for your organization in general, and then how it's beneficial or doubly beneficial for you in light of this collaborative project with Charity Navigator. So Lindsay's team and our team here at GuideStar did some homework in anticipation of this collaborative project and discovered that a large number of organizations, we're looking now at the right-hand side of this graph, that are rated organizations with Charity Navigator have claimed and updated their profile on GuideStar.org. This was a great revelation for us, but we also recognized, looking at those on the left-hand side of this chart, that there are a number of organizations who are unaware of how they can benefit from claiming and updating their GuideStar profile, and there are others who have perhaps in the past, as you see in the expired category, updated and claimed a GuideStar profile, but frankly, that responsibility perhaps is no longer covered in someone's job description, and so they haven't kept up with their seals of transparency. So what as I mentioned in my preliminary remarks and what you'll hear repeatedly today, the primary message we want to convey to attendees on today's webinar is that if you recognize the importance of a GuideStar profile and you recognize the combined importance of how your message can be amplified through the collaborative efforts of Charity Navigator and GuideStar, now is the time, both from a sense of urgency and from an opportunity perspective, given the dramatic increase that we will see over the next 3 months in the giving season, to claim if you have not yet claimed, and then increase your seal of transparency from bronze to silver, and hopefully from silver to gold, and for some of you from gold to gold or platinum. Obviously, there are a number of folks on today's webinar who are already at gold or platinum, and for you, you will benefit from this project without any additional effort. Obviously, if you are at gold today and you want to get to platinum, that would be phenomenal, and we can help you do that. But the primary audience that we're appealing to today are those who are at silver, where you are sit right on the precipice of benefiting from this collaborative project, or at bronze, which puts you well within reach If you have never claimed your profile or at basic or expired, you also will realize how easy it is to update your profile in today's webinar and hopefully get to a level where you'll benefit from this cross-promotional effort that GuideStar and Charity Navigator will do for your organization as we go into giving season. So for those of you who aren't entirely aware, GuideStar is a primary source of intelligence, like Charity Navigator, for this sector of giving. Our information increasingly is coming both from nonprofits as well as the IRS, and that produces for us a database that foundations, donors, experts from the field are also contributing to, so that we can be a data hub that informs intelligent giving in the sector. Most of you are aware of the existence of GuideStar. Many of you may not know that you have the opportunity to claim your organization's profile on GuideStar through some very simple steps that we will review with you today. And this is entirely free, what we're talking about today, just as an FYI. So GuideStar is not just an aggregator of data, we're also a disseminator of data. That means we distribute the data but from two primary sources. One is from our website, GuideStar.org. We'll have between, well, last year we had 8 million users on GuideStar.org looking to learn more about the organizations that represent the causes that they care about. This represents nonprofits themselves, donors, government, volunteers, etc. We also have a partner network. These are our data distribution channels, which include over 200 partners who, with your consent, if you choose to share it, your information will show up and be accessible to donors who want to find out more about your organization but want to learn about it without having to go to GuideStar.org. Some of these data partners are represented here. We have academic partners. These are researchers who are increasingly looking for and generating white papers and intelligence about the effectiveness of the nonprofit sector. We have community foundations who are striving to increase giving local campaigns. Many of you are familiar with those and participate with those in your own communities. We have a number of financial firms. Increasingly, financial advisors are being asked to inform family and individual philanthropy and giving decisions. The press, of course, we are constantly being asked to provide subject matter expertise on how the nonprofit sector is adapting to change, economic change, social changes, environmental changes, etc. These news outlets are using GuideStar as a primary source of intelligence, and we want to make sure they're learning how your organization is making a difference in the world. Obviously, increasingly, folks are finding opportunities to give in websites that they care about. These are client relation campaigns where many of you are familiar with the opportunity to find and add up or contribute a giving amount through Just Give or American Express campaigns, among others. Our relationship with Facebook is relatively new. It started last November, and we had over 4,000 registrants to our webinar in August, earlier this in the latter part of this summer, helping folks understand how they can use Facebook to strengthen their giving efforts. Of course, Amazon Smile and Google, some of our preeminent partners, and some of our other partners listed here below, philanthropic trusts, donor-advised funds, etc. I'm sharing this with you just to help you understand that folks who are wanting to learn about your organization and the difference you make are not just finding your information on GuideStar.org. They're finding your information on a variety of platforms, which is catching them where they want to learn. And obviously, we know fundamental among these is they're looking both on Charity Navigator and GuideStar. So we want to help unify this intelligence and strengthen your ability to reach and communicate with folks when they're making those critical giving decisions. As many of you may be aware, but this is always a good reminder, we are not the only ones talking about this stuff. The primary data that's driving giving decisions from a donor behavior perspective is universally financial information. The degree to which your stewardship of your organization points to the capacity to deliver results, which is really driven by evidence of your financial abilities and wherewithal, and then, just as importantly, evidence of effectiveness. So across all three primary giving bodies, individual givers, professional advisors, and philanthropy, we're looking for, these three groups are looking for a common set of information that's helping to guide their giving decisions. This is really some critical insight that everyone here probably knows anecdotally, but if you weren't familiar with this Money for Good report that was commissioned by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, among others, a lot of this intelligence is from 2015, but it is no less relevant today given where we sit in trying to strengthen our organizations and attract new and increased donors in our community. So a little information about your GuideStar profile. If you have not been on GuideStar before, I would encourage you immediately following today's webinar, go on GuideStar and look up your organization. When you look up if you are with a nonprofit organization, you will have a GuideStar profile. It will look something like this. The GuideStar profile view was just updated about a month ago, so this is the new and improved version for those of you who are concerned. Nothing, very little substantively has changed. It's just a newer layout that's a little more mobile friendly. We have a significantly increased number of users who are coming to our website from a variety of tools, so we want to make sure that we're very user-friendly across the mobile environment. Many of you are familiar with our Seals of Transparency. This is really a catalyst for this project with Charity Navigator. Bronze is the ability for you to both have claimed your organization's profile and then provide basic information so that a donor can find you. And my colleague Madeline is going to review some of the specific details on each of these levels. But in many ways, what you see here is a four-step process. Most organizations can go through this four-step process in 2 hours or less. Madeline will provide you with some of the details that will help you understand how you can get to gold or platinum if you want to capitalize on this project with GuideStar and Charity Navigator. So the bronze seal, again, is helping donors who want to find you make sure they can find you when they're looking for you. The silver seal is providing that key financial information. You just saw me highlight that in the Money for Good report. This is that financial stewardship question that most folks want to make sure that they understand how healthy your organization is financially. The latter two levels are really critical to this partnership. Gold is what we refer to as our charting impact level. This is where you articulate the difference you're making in the programs and services you offer to make a difference in the community that you serve. And platinum is where you articulate your quantified results. How do you measure your success? Increasingly, this is the information that donors are looking for to ensure that you are worthy of their time and treasure. So how does a donor use GuideStar to answer these questions? Here's an example of a profile. Very often a donor will come in and forgive me, let me go back here. We have a set of just highlighting the new profile view and noting that two things that changed a month ago. Again, you heard me mention this is the new and improved profile view. We rolled out the ability for an organization to include its tagline. Very often, these are the types of things that an organization is known by. Historically, those were needed to be embedded in different mission statements, et cetera, and were challenging for individuals to find, but increasingly we are allowing you to capture those and promoting those and making sure they're visible to the donor community. And then secondly, we are increasingly allowing map-based or geo-search for our nonprofit organizations. As you might imagine, folks might use GuideStar and search by a cause area or search by your organization's name. They may also want to see organizations in their own community or within a geographic area where they want to make a difference. That is increasingly available through the new profile that GuideStar offers. Here you see evidence. You'll notice just the evidence of a geomap that sort of shows you will, if you choose to take advantage of this, be able to position yourself on the map. This allows you to position different programs. So you may have programs all over the country, across different states, within different zip codes in your community, really gives you an opportunity to respond to that donor who's looking for things that meet their areas of interest in a community that is of particular interest to them. So how does an individual use this profile on GuideStar.org? Increasingly, they are finding your organization, again, bronze level of transparency. You want to make sure that your organization's name and the way you're known is easy to find in GuideStar. Once they land on your profile, they are often clicking on your results. You will notice that this information is represented graphically, so an individual can see year-over-year information if you choose to share it. We recommend 2 to 3 results shared. Certainly, many organizations share many more, but if you're trying to make sure that you're providing donors with key information and preventing donor fatigue, it would be great for you to target 2 to 3 results and provide, if you have it available, 2 to 3 years of data. GuideStar will allow you to identify your population served and any notes that contextualize that data, but in many cases, folks are looking for that simple graphical interface that says, I see what they're striving to accomplish, and I see what results matter to them. They're then taking their next step and say, okay, I see what the results of this organization are. How is the organization achieving it? This is where that charting impact or gold or narrative articulation becomes evident to the donor or the prospective donor. They want to learn how you've aligned yourself and your organization to accomplish those results. They're then looking at your financial capacity to deliver results. How does your income or your revenue and your expenses align year over year? And then to what degree are we understanding what kind of board leadership and stewardship of the organization is there? Is this an organization that's well positioned and has leadership in place to be able to deliver results year over year? So with that, I'm going to turn the webinar over to my colleague Madeline, who's going to provide the sort of granular detail about how an organization can both claim its profile and then move through each level of transparency from bronze to silver, and then hopefully for our partnership with Charity Navigator, getting your organization from silver to gold and gold to platinum. Again, gold and platinum are stretch goals for anyone on today's call. We want to make sure if you get to gold or platinum between now and October 5th, your information will be shared on Charity Navigator, and those who are looking to learn more about your organization will get that key information at a time when there is a maximum number of prospective donors looking to learn about who you are and how you accomplish your goals. Madeline?
Perfect. Thank you, Adrian. That was a really thorough overview. So what we're going to do next is walk you through the entire process, starting from being unclaimed all the way through platinum. All right. So moving forward here, the very first step is gaining access to your profile. Luckily, since you guys are attending today's event, you're actually able to claim your profile right now. Alternatively, if you aren't the person who's responsible for updating your profile, I'll also be showing you the step-by-step process in just a moment. And remember, you guys will receive a copy of today's slides and recording, so you can share this, with your colleagues as well. So to claim your profile right now, here's what you need to do. Just email outreach@guidestar.org with the subject line Charity Navigator Webinar, and include in the main body of the email your first and last name, your EIN or employer identification number, and your zip code. That's about it. Our fantastic team will work behind the scenes to give you access to your profile. And I'm going to give you guys just a few seconds here to copy down this information. All right, hopefully that was enough time. There we go. So this is the DIY way to claim your profile, and I'm just going to run through the 5 steps to do so in case either you or one of your colleagues will need this information. So this is the first step. If you don't already have an account with GuideStar, you're going to go ahead and create one by going to www.guidestar.org and clicking that top right-hand button, Create Account. You'll be prompted to fill out a few web forms, and then you'll be on your way. A pro tip for you guys is to use an email address associated with your organization. That'll just help you get approved a whole lot faster. If you already have an account with GuideStar, all you have to do is click Sign In, which is located right next to that Create Account button on the homepage. Up next, here we go. There you go. Thank you for waiting. So up next, you're going to click the Update Nonprofit Profile link at the top of the homepage. And so you guys know you can always find this button from anywhere on our site. The next step, step number 3 here, is you're going to click the blue Get Started button. All right, we're almost there. The next step is to enter your organization's employer identification number, your EIN, and click Request Permission. Another pro tip here is to be sure to include the hyphen in your EIN. That might save you some time. And a side note, if you did just create your GuideStar account for the very first time, you may need to verify your email address before moving on to the final step. And here's the final step. So once you click Request Permission, a web form such as this one will appear on your screen. All you have to do is fill in the required fields, such as your name and your email address, and click Submit Request at the bottom of the page. Our amazing stakeholder support team will approve your request within 1 to 2 business days. And that's it. So a few more tidbits of information for this process. Number 1, there is no limit to the number of individuals that can be assigned to be updating your profile. So as many people can go through this process as you like. However, we do recommend that you internally establish one person who's responsible for this, and this is usually someone who's responsible for external marketing or outreach materials, for example. So just make sure that someone is indeed in charge of it. Number 2, we also recommend adding a general email address such as info@yournonprofit.org as a manager of your profile. That way you won't lose access. You know, if there's churn, which happens, or roles change, you'll always have access. Okay, one last pro tip, lied to you a little bit. If you're creating a new account for the first time, please make sure to check your spam folder. Usually the response email from GuideStar ends up in there, so just make sure to double check that folder. Okay, went through that process rather quickly, but please don't worry, you will have access to these slides and the recording from today's webinar, so you guys can go back and take a look on this process. So once you have access to your profile, you can immediately start to update. So what we're going to do now is briefly walk through exactly what you'll need to get your organization to the Platinum Seal of Transparency. And this is GuideStar's highest form of recognition. And remember, if you want information from your profile to appear on Charity Navigator before Giving Tuesday, as my colleague Adrian was speaking of, you'll make sure you want to get these updates done before Thursday, October 5th. And I know Lindsay had that marked as well, so make sure you jot that down a second time. That's exactly 2 weeks from today. I'll be honest with you guys, this is pretty straightforward stuff, and it should take you roughly 2 hours total to go from being unclaimed all the way to Platinum. And now for the information staring right in front of you. This is everything that's required to earn the first level, the Bronze Seal of Transparency. So you'll notice that each level has a variety of data that you can add to your profile. That way you'll personalize it and make sure it kind of goes above and beyond that bare minimum that's available through your Form 990. So for Bronze, this is super basic information so your organization can be found. Required fields include identification information such as your organization name, your primary contact information, your mailing address, etc. And you'll see that everything that's required has a red asterisk next to it and is in red. But you're also going to notice that a vast majority of these fields are not red. So obviously you can skip also known as or doing business as found in that second row there. But we certainly don't recommend it if your organization is known by another name or an acronym or a phrase, because if you input that, that'll increase the likelihood that a seeker will find you on GuideStar. So just make sure, put yourself in the mind of an anonymous donor or a donor that wants to know more about you, and you want to make sure that they can find you every single time. On the right-hand side here, you're going to see an increased focus on your mission statement, your program information to explain the work that you do every single day, as well as the population that you serve. We also just added a really fun new feature which Adrian just spoke about, where you can pinpoint exactly which areas your programs serve on a geographic map, which is really fun. So this is bronze. It's about a dozen data elements and could take anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes, so it really won't take too long at all. If you guys need help, just take a look at the bottom of the slide there. You're going to see I've actually linked a step-by-step guide for bronze, and you'll notice on the following slides there are links for all the other seals as well. So when you guys are reviewing, you know, the recording and the slides after the fact, you can of course click on that link. Next up is silver. So the silver seal is actually even easier than the bronze seal. This is all about basic information. And there are two options for silver. The first one is if you have an audited financial statement, all you need to do is upload it. That's it. Easy peasy. If, however, you don't have an audited financial statement, or you simply don't want to share your audited financials, you can self-report the key pieces of financial information manually. And you know, it's not that many fields. It's your fiscal year, basic revenue, basic expenses, assets, and liability. If you're curious where to find this information, if you don't have an audited financial statement, all you have to do is take a look at your most recent Form 990. And all of this data can be found on the bottom of page 1 and the top of page 2. So you don't have to do any Form 990 spelunking, which I'm sure you all were very scared about. So it's all right there on the first 2 pages. Yet again, there are a total of 9 data elements here. And in total, this should take you about 15 minutes or less to complete. So not too horrible. Gold. This is a very simple section to complete. Gold is based on these 5 charting impact questions developed by Independent Sector, BBBY's Giving Alliance, and GuideStar. It took us about 1.5 years and lots of consulting to arrive at these 5 questions. Gold is a really great tool to articulate your long-term goals and strategies. Very often you actually already have the answers to these questions. So if you've done any recent, if you've done a recent grant application, any strategic planning, particularly a document such as a SWOT analysis, or perhaps even an appeal to donors, all of those documents will contain all the information you need to complete Gold. So they'll contain, number 1, your goals. So what is your organization aiming to accomplish, as well as your strategies to realize these goals. It'll include your organization's capabilities, the indicators you're going to use to ensure you're making progress, and of course what you've accomplished so far and what's next. When answering these questions, you're going to give yourself kind of a 5-year horizon. So for example, if you take a look at the indicators question, you would ask yourself, in 5 years, key metric here, how many clients will my organization have served? Again, very straightforward stuff. With a grant application handy, this is about a 20-minute activity. Without a grant application, I recognize this may take some soul searching on the part of your organization, but it's very critical to have this information present so that you can represent yourself accordingly. Also, these are the questions that donors are seeking to understand, more about your organization when they're trying to learn about you. A few best practices for the Gold Seal. Keep it short and sweet. We aren't looking for an essay for each question. We're looking for 3 to 4 really short paragraphs. So no worries on that part. And you're going to want to make sure that you add spaces in between each paragraph so people aren't staring at a wall of text, because they won't read all of that. So you just want to break it up with those spaces. So use that hard return. I'm going to pause here before we jump into Platinum. Just as a reminder for you guys, when you're at the final step of the updating process, you'll have the ability to turn on a donate button. You can kind of see that on the left-hand side of our screen here. We've got these options for you. You can also opt into our partner network. So your data is available to not only the 8 million users on GuideStar, but 30 million users, so millions more. And lastly, we have a lot of folks that don't finish their good work. So you want to make sure that you publish your results when you're done making your updates. So do not let yourself forget. I can't tell you how often enough I get people contacting me, asking me, I've made all these changes, why don't I see them on my profile? And it's simply because they did not hit the button to publish their changes. So be sure to do that. At last, we are at Platinum. So Platinum is the highest form of recognition on GuideStar, and it's all about sharing your key results from year to year. So if you just worked on an annual report, you'll definitely find that information in there. Or you can check externally facing material such as your website or perhaps a handout like a pamphlet. That's usually all in there. So these are all the things that will contain the information you've captured to quantify your results. We do have resources for you. So we have something called the Common Results Catalog, and this is a giant list of metrics that we already have in our system. So you can use it to find results that relate to your organization. And of course, when you see this screen, when you're going through the updating process, you will click the View a PDF or Download PDF section. A fun fact for you guys is about 70% of metrics that have been shared have been through the Common Results Catalog. So you will most likely find a metric that relates to your organization. Once you jump into our system, you will have the ability to actually search through our metrics. So there's this search function. Just know it does a little bit of word association. So if you put in the word employment, it'll give you job, employment, internship, work, etc. So if you get kind of a wonky result, that might be why. You can also use the filters on the left-hand side to also try and pick a good metric for yourself, and just know that these filters correspond to the categories shared in the Common Results Catalog as well. If you aren't finding a metric that applies to your organization, please do not worry. You can always create your own. So you can make a custom metric, and the way that you do that is you scroll to the bottom of this screen and you'll click Can't Find a Metric, Add Your Own. Then you can add your own, which is very nice. So don't worry, you can always add your own. All right, then once you add your metric, you're going to add the actual data to it. So to get Platinum, secret for you guys, you only need one metric with 1 year's worth of data. But we recommend adding your top 3 to 5 metrics and give each metric 3 to 5 years worth of data. That way you'll have a breadth of data and a depth of data. It gives people kind of a trend when they look at your metric. So make sure you do that. And as we say here at GuideStar, no stories without numbers, no numbers without stories. So we strongly recommend that you add context notes. So you'll see on the right-hand side of the screen here, context notes. You can add kind of a brief 2 sentences explaining your metric. So for example, if your year-by-year results look a little strange, you know, if your 2014 is super high and your 2015 is super low, you can explain that. 2014 was kind of an outlier year, you just did fantastic, but 2015 is more the average. That's one way you can use your context notes. You can also just explain the metric itself. So for example, number of job skills training courses and workshops conducted. You can explain what exact type of skills you went over in that training. That's just one example. If you look down below, you'll see you can add a year. So you can actually add a year all the way back to the year 2000. If you have that data, that's amazing. Below that, you can actually relate each metric to one of your programs. And this is something we definitely recommend. So the vast majority of your metrics should be related to a program, and then you should leave about 1 to 2 metrics kind of just for organizational wide ones. Beneath that, you can actually tie each metric to a target population served, which is nice. It'll kind of help contextualize your metric. And then once you're done with all that, you're going to click Yes, Display, and then Save. And then that will get your metric all ready to go. And when you publish everything, you will indeed get Platinum. And this is what it's going to look like. Here we go. All right. So once you publish, this is how your metrics are going to show up on your profile. They're definitely going to significantly enhance the value you're providing to your stakeholders who are trying to learn more about your organization. So you will, of course, want to have this up and ready before Giving Tuesday. Two final slides here about voluntary information. So the first is, if you have board information, we're finding that governance is actually a really important component and a driver of confidence for donors looking into your organization. So we do have this section called Board Leadership Practices, where you can answer 6 yes or no questions based on your board's practices. So definitely something that we recommend. And by voluntary information, I just want to clarify, this means it does not affect your ability to get a seal, so totally optional. All right, and then here's just this last slide here of voluntary information. You have the option of adding social and media information. So this includes websites, additional websites if you have them, social media usernames, and of course photos and videos. And I will admit, this does make your profile look a little bit more personal, especially when you can see colorful images amid a sea of text and numbers. So that's very nice. You can also add your organization's demographics. So this is another way to be transparent with donors. So who actually works at your organization, what gender, race, ethnicity, etc. So GuideStar is actually known as the source of diversity, equity, and inclusion data in the sector. So if your organization is committed to those concepts and you capture that data, we definitely strongly recommend that you report it as well. Lastly, additional documents here. So you can add documents such as your annual report. You can add your own Form 990 under IRS documents here. You can add certifications, other sort of documents such as a strategic plan, and a quick note from your nonprofit if you want to provide that. As I mentioned kind of throughout this, we have included links to step-by-step guides for each of the seals of transparency. But if you need extra help, please visit the GuideStar community. We have thousands of questions already answered, and we have support within 1 business day. So if you guys are running into any issues going through those seals, please go to the GuideStar community, and you can see it here. It's www.community.guidestar.org. Hopefully you guys are not tired of my voice just yet, but this is your last reminder. If you want to take everything you've learned today, use it, update your profile today, be sure you have access to your profile, and email our fantastic support team at outreach@guidestar.org, as you can see right in front of you. Of course, be sure to include in your subject line Charity Navigator webinar and your first and last name, EIN, and zip code. That is all. Thank you so much for listening to my spiel. I will now pass it back to my colleague, Adrian.
Thanks, Madeline. Very helpful. I'm thrilled that we revisited this Claim Your Profile Today slide, because many of our questions that have come in on the question box have indicated they might have missed that the first go round. So we'll leave this slide on for another minute here. Again, this is the quick and easy way for you right now in real time or over the next few minutes to send an email to outreach@guidestar.org, include that subject line of Charity Navigator webinar. That'll prompt our team who's watching and monitoring that email address to make sure they get you the information, they allow you to get claimed so that you can update your profile as you see fit. So before we go to questions, I want to ask a quick polling question. This is an opportunity for us to hear from you directly. And I'd encourage you to take a moment to click on one of these answers. Based on what you've learned today, do you expect to get your organization to Gold or Platinum between October 5th? Please take a moment to select one of the 3 options that are available to you. Again, if you're already at Gold or Platinum, you're in great shape. You're going to benefit from this effort between Charity Navigator and GuideStar immediately. However, if you've not yet claimed your profile, or you are at Bronze or Silver in your seal level, there's a little effort required of you, and we certainly want to make sure we're standing by the ready to meet those needs. I will tell you, I'm not sure if you're seeing this, but the results are overwhelmingly positive, I'm thrilled to say. So we have about 78% of folks who said that they've learned enough about what we've shared today, between what Lindsay has shared and what Madeline and I have shared, to be able to act on this, that is fantastic, and frankly, really validates our sense that this is going to be an invaluable first step for Charity Navigator and GuideStar to commit to for the marketplace of giving and the community of practice. So we'll go to our final slide here. Is really a question slide. There are a number of questions that have been submitted, and Lindsay, I want to throw the first one to you if I can. And let me scroll back here. Folks, again, please feel free to use the question box in the navigation tab on the right-hand side of your webinar. Please know it's currently just about 10 of the hour. We will conclude promptly at the top of the hour, and so those questions that do not get answered on today's webinar will be answered in follow-up correspondence. But let's see. Lindsay, great question comes in from Karen. I know you mentioned this in the early part of the webinar, but I think it's important to restate. Will the GuideStar Seal, Gold or Platinum, affect their organization's Charity Navigator star rating?
That is a good question, Karen. Thanks. The answer is no. The seal and the data represented by that level will not in any way impact your rating. So thank you for asking.
Great. So again, please feel free to share and know that what you're doing is capitalizing on these two promotional resources, the ability for where these donors are looking, both Charity Navigator and GuideStar in that instance. We've had a number of questions come in that ask if there will be, if Charity Navigator rating information will be available on GuideStar.org. I will tell you that what we're doing today and in anticipation of Giving Tuesday is really laying the framework for how both of our organizations can work better to support the community of giving and the community of practice. So while I can't say on today's webinar when that will happen, I think that we are starting to march down that path and really excited for the progress we've made so far, and excited to be able to give rise to this collaborative effort for Giving Tuesday this year. I'm just scrolling down again. It's a pretty simple reminder here. Katie asks, our org already has platinum status. Do we need to do anything, or is there anything I should know that is happening on Giving Tuesday? No, if you are at platinum status, you are, as Madeline mentioned several times, at the highest level of recognition from GuideStar, and your platinum results data will be shared with Charity Navigator and then will be posted on the Charity Navigator website in anticipation of Giving Tuesday. So if you're a platinum, all systems go. You have to do nothing in order to capitalize and benefit from this. If you're at gold, you will also benefit by your information being shared with Charity Navigator and the donors who use their service. You may benefit by taking a few moments between now and October 5th to get from gold to platinum. That certainly would be beneficial. Beyond that, again, if you are at bronze or silver or have not claimed a profile, this is a reminder that now might be a great time to bump that up your priority list and on your checklist. I'm just scrolling through some of these questions to make sure we're covering as much. There's a question in from Jacqueline. She's asking about the opt-in. So this is specifically related to GuideStar and is voluntary for this project. Just know that you may, if Jacqueline, I'm not sure, and others who may not have caught the first few minutes of today's webinar, I highlighted that the information you share with GuideStar is available on GuideStar.org. It is also available through what's called our Data Distribution Partner Network. I showed a slide that highlighted some of those partners. When you opt in and share your information with GuideStar, you can also choose to opt in and share your information with our Data Distribution Network. This is the Fidelity Charitables, the Facebooks, the Amazon Smiles, the Googles, the CrowdRise, you name it. This is a way to increase and amplify your voice and extend beyond your friends and family to encourage donors who don't yet know about you why you should be an organization they should pay attention to. I'm Lindsay, here's a question for you. I'd like to know a little bit more about how the Charity Navigator star system works. That comes in from Selena.
Sure. So our rating system is based on two dimensions of nonprofit health. The first is financial health. The second is on governance policies. We call it accountability and transparency. All of the evaluations that we produce are based on publicly available data from the IRS through your Form 990, the tax form that you file, as well as through your website. So our system is on a scale of 0 to 4 stars, 4 stars being the highest rating that you can get. And you, similar to GuideStar, if you are not rated or if you are rated, in either case you have information listed on our site, so you should be able to go to www.charitynavigator.org, type in your charity's name or EIN into the search bar, and pull up your profile. What we do allow for is, with certain metrics, we can update those in between receiving tax forms from your organization. So we're updating your rating on a yearly basis based on the financial information we receive, but there are certain metrics around your governance and transparency that we can certainly make updates to throughout the year. So I would encourage you, you know, I'm sure we're going to share contact information here, but I'd encourage you to follow up with me offline, and I can make sure to connect you to the right person. Most organizations that we rate, all organizations that we rate, have an analyst assigned, and so I can make sure you're connected to the right person. So feel free to email me after the webinar. Are we sharing, I can share my email here, or if Adrian were sending that around, that would be helpful.
Yeah, we'll include that in the send around. I want to get to our final question. We're bringing this to a close. Those who have not had their question answered, we will answer your questions directly. We have those questions submitted, and this is a recorded web event, so the web recording will go around. A copy of the slide deck will go around. You will have access to all this intelligence. We'll also send email and contact information for each of us if you have follow-up questions. But Lindsay, can you remind folks again, if they don't make the October 5th deadline, tell us again, without making any commitments to anyone, what you're thinking about folks who might be striving hard to get there but might not make it.
Right, without any promises. We don't have dates ironed out yet, but please know that we have this date for the Giving Tuesday release of this information on our site, but we're looking into continuous and regular updates to this information over time. So keep your GuideStar nonprofit profile updated. Please reach out to us, either me directly or info@charitynavigator.org, and we can, as we iron out those details, share them with you.
Fantastic. Lindsay, thanks so much for your time. To those, and Madeline, thanks for your time. To those on today's call, really a remarkable level of interest in this. We had a 75% attendance rate today. Our typical attendance rate ranges from 50 to 60%. So we're thrilled that this is a message that's resonating with the audience in the community of practice. We are excited that this first step will hopefully be the first of many as we move forward. For those of you, again, who joined late or who have been distracted during today's webinar, you will receive, every registrant will receive a copy of this recording. You'll also receive a copy of this slide deck with all the information we covered, and those who submitted questions that were time prevented us from answering, we will answer those questions directly. So thank you again very much, Lindsay and Madeline, for your time. Thank you to all of our attendees for taking time out of your busy day to learn more about this. And we're here to help and can't wait to continue our exciting work with Charity Navigator.
Thanks, everyone.